Hi guys, Super Secret Tech here, and I'm going to do something a little special today. I'm going to talk about my personal predictions from the Vault 20 after the Wizards of the Coast spoilers. They've talked about how it's some of the most iconic and played cards, along with the rationale behind choosing the cards that I am. So first off, Fireball. Um, there's a couple of reasons um, I picked Fireball. One is it's one of the most played cards throughout Magic's history. Um, it's also because of Channel has already been printed in a From the Vault uh, series, so it probably won't see reprint. Um, I feel that Fireball is an excellent fit, and it really captures that first year of Magic um, without being the broken side of things. Um, for 1994, Swords to Plowshares. This is one of those cards that has just defined deck building, and it's still seen play to this day. Um, I think that's another integral part of the From the Vault series from what they've spoiled, um, is cards that still see play. These aren't the cards that you just cast aside, whether they're common, whether they're uncommon, whether they're rare. These are cards that still see play or still have the potential to see play. The first confirmed card on the list is Hymn to Turok. Um, this was the first time that 1995, when the adults were playing, the Necropotence Hymn to Turok deck actually came from the Junior Series, and it's defined more of an archetype, and it's still a playable card. It still sees play in Legacy um, with the Shardless Bug deck, and I think that's why they chose to include him to Turok. Again, this one's officially confirmed. Um, my pick for 1996 has to be Force of Will. Um, Even though in the tournaments of 1996, this card wasn't seen play heavily, um, I think it's the most iconic uh, card from that era. Um, and they just said it was a tournament winning card um, from each of the years of Magic. So it doesn't mean that it has to be like the World Championship deck, even though several of the cards that I pick are from those decks. Um, this Force of Will is just very, very iconic. It's very flavorful. It's a very strong example of what uh, has defined Magic tournaments over the years, and again, it's still playable today. Um, Impulse is another one of those cards. It's a tournament staple. It's still used in decks now. And again, Impulse is another confirmed card. Reoccurring Nightmare. Out of all the different decks and all the different speculations, this is one of the cards in the Bloom deck, which is really the first ever combo deck. And the reason why I picked Reoccurring Nightmare over all the other cards in the deck is again that it still sees play. Um, Reoccurring Nightmare still sees play in Vintage and Legacy. And you'll notice that I use that because of the cards that Wizards of the Coast have provided. All the cards that they have provided have seen play or seen reprinting in very recent years. And so I think that it's good to use that as a basis for my uh, assumptions of cards that will be coming out. Um, the other thing to note is that my predictions are probably not 100% accurate because the money cost involved in the set, if it was, would be outrageous, and I don't think they would sell the set for $40. But this is my viewpoint of the ultimate iconic cards that are still playable from each of the years. 1999 Wildfire. This card just destroyed the Pro Tour. Um, and it was a very different feel. For the first time, we're going from combos and control elements where this still has that, but it's just a massive earth-shaking, sorcery that's destroying the world, and your stuff lives. Again, this card's still playable. Um, Even though it hasn't seen much play, I could definitely see a modern deck or a legacy deck using Wildfire um, at some point in time. 2000, um, I went with Rashid Import here, just because it was simply the most played tournament card of the year. Like more people played Rashid Import than just any other card that year. I think it's extremely iconic, and it's still again playable today. Dark Ritual, 2001 was really the year of like Kavu, um, and the Fires deck, but the Fires deck also used Dark Ritual. The reason why I chose Dark Ritual over all the other cards is again it still sees tournament play today, um, and it's very iconic of Wizards history. Psychotalk, even though this guy has really lost a lot in recent times, he really defined metagames for years. Um, he dominated Standard, he dominated Extended, he dominated Legacy, he dominated Vintage when he came out. And I definitely think he's the most iconic card of the 2002 era. Akromas Vengeance. This is another one of the confirmed cards. It won several events and has had more of an impact beyond the years than any of the other cards in the deck. When you look at Astral Slide, when you look at the cycling effect, like most of the cycling cards went away, but Akroma's Vengeance was seeing play in extended until it turned into modern and it got rotated out of the format. Now, even though it hasn't seen legacy play, it saw a lot more play than any of the other cards in, the Astral Slide decks. Gilded Lotus, this is confirmed, and I think the reason that they confirmed it and they printed Gilded Lotus is because I don't think it's a good iconic trip down memory lane without having a Lotus. Obviously, they didn't want to go with the Mox. Chrome Mox, before confirmation, would have been my personal guess and my personal pick. But Gilded Lotus is still a very iconic card, and it's still seen play as well. Ink Eyes, this one's confirmed, and even though I think Jite or Maluku would have probably been a better fit to really define 2005, Ink Eyes has really seen a lot more play um, besides Jit, but definitely over Maluku in other formats, and is really, really popular with Commander. Um, and I think it's a good utility that Wizards is using to get Commander product out to help players that want to play Commander. Lightning Helix for 2006. One of the most unforgettable moments in Magic's history was the top deck, where basically the only card that he could top deck was to get a Lightning Helix, and he rips it right off the top and kills him. And I mean, it was just such a huge deal, and it had, for me at least, it was the first time that Magic really felt like a real sport, and I don't think we would be uh, in the game that we're in, and I don't think Magic would be as successful without moments like the Lightning Helix top deck. Venser, Shaper, Servant. This is probably the second most unforgettable moment in Magic history, oddly enough, because they're right back to back. Again, um, in 2007, it was the top deck of the Venser to bounce and kill. And basically, it's the only card in the entire deck that uh, could work when it needed to with the counterbalance deck, and he did, and he won the Pro Tour. And I mean, again, just super iconic, super memorable moment. And again, a card that still sees play today. Bitter Blossom. Bitter Blossom is what I see as the iconic card for the evolution into modern Magic, into the modern formats that we are playing today. Like Bitter Blossom to me is kind of the card that started the evolution. Now, while Ponder would also be a great fit and can be described in the same way, I think Bitter Blossom's that card that really pushed the envelope over the edge. And that's why it's my pick for 2008. 2009, Cruel Ultimatum, just simply one of the most powerful spells ever printed. It defined meta for a very, very long time. And with the 5-color control decks, very powerful spell, very useful in other formats. It still gets played in Commander on a regular basis, even though it doesn't see so much tournament play. A lot of that is just because of the cost of the card. It's very expensive. And Eternal formats normally try to be a lot cheaper on the mana cost side. But it's still just a very iconic card, showing where Magic's really come from, Fireball to Cruel Ultimatum. Then 2010 confirmed Jace, the Mind Sculptor, probably the most recognizable and iconic card in modern Magic. Even though it's banned got banned in Standard, it got banned in Extended, it got banned in Modern. Um, Jace, the Mind Sculptor, really did push things to a whole new envelope and is insanely powerful and still played in Legacy and Vintage today. Tarmogoyf. The reason I picked him for 2011 is that was the year where really the two choices of big breakout tournament cards are Tarmogoyf and Force of Will. Since I have Force of Will in 1996, I figured Tarmogoyf would be very fitting here. And again, I think that this set, I think it's kind of Magic's gift back. And again, Tarmogoyf has just been vastly, vastly played, and it's really hard to imagine an iconic set where they're thinking about the 20 best years of Magic without including Tarmogoyf. My 2012 pick is probably the most instantly defined archetype in modern Magic. Delvar was quickly thrown into legacy decks and modern decks and standard decks almost overnight of being released. And so for me, it's definitely like the iconic 2012 card. It has more archetypes and more decks named Delvar than any other card in 2012. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Again, this is just my personal viewpoints on the matter. It's nothing finite. It'd be nice to see, all my predictions come true. I highly doubt that because no one man's predictions are ever that accurate. But I hope you enjoyed it.